Most of us don't really class alcohol as a drug. It's just part of life, right? Nights out, going to parties, having fun with friends. But what happens when you realize that it's not actually fun anymore? Welcome back to another episode of Maybe This Helps. My guest today is Jess Clark, and she knows that feeling better than most. She grew up in Bristol, surrounded by the same drinking culture as I did. But after years of hangovers, missed moments, and spending the next day dreading what they had done the night before, she made the decision to quit drinking alcohol, and it has completely changed her life.
I don't regret any of it because I truly am so happy in myself now.
Jess is the author of How to Quit Alcohol Like a Boss, and she's building a community around seeing sobriety as less of a restriction and more of a superpower. In this conversation, we talk about the reasons that really made Jess make a change. We discuss the loneliness and social pressures of quitting alcohol and the deep self-reflection that Jess has been on to help build her a new life. Honestly, whether you drink alcohol or not, whether you want to quit alcohol or not, this conversation is more than that. There's so much in this conversation about identity, resilience, and your choice to choose a better way of living and ultimately a better life. If this episode connects with you or resonates with you, I'd really appreciate it if you could send it to somebody that you think could benefit. And don't forget to follow Maybe This Helps on wherever you listen to your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's get into it. This is Jess Clark on Maybe This Helps. So Jess, thank you for joining me. I'd like to start off, if we can, by just getting straight into a bit of a deep question. And in your book, you say putting yourself first is the ultimate superpower. Is there a specific moment that you kind of come to that realization that you really had to start putting yourself first?
I think just relating this to alcohol, I think when I realized that my relationship with alcohol wasn't serving me, and I was looking for kind of external factors as to why this was, and trying to understand like why do I have this problem, why do I feel like such a victim in this scenario. And I think one day it just clicked and I realized that actually everything that's going on in the outer world is kind of actions that I've taken and things that actually I can control. So I think as soon as that penny sort of dropped, it was almost like actually, the more I put myself first, the more I seem to feel better, the more my relationships are getting stronger, the more kind of positive I feel. So actually, this is the way forward. And I think once you have that realization, it's just a ripple effect, and it's contagious, and you just want to, improve yourself and continue to improve yourself, because it brings everything to life around you is probably the best way I can describe it. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love that. I think when you say contagious, and like I get it, like obviously as I said to you, I'm coming up to a year sober myself, and
that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, it is definitely contagious. I get that 100%. Just for everyone that is listening or watching this, I'd love to sort of just go back to the start a little bit if we can. And
absolutely.
I think from reading your book, your early years is something that obviously naturally that I sort of resonate with a lot. We both grew up in Bristol, probably spent a lot of time going to like the same parties and clubs and all of that jazz. But yeah, I was just really hoping to hear in your own words, what was your relationship like with alcohol sort of at the very start when you first started drinking? And did it feel as if your relationship with alcohol was quote unquote normal? Was everyone around you sort of operating, and did you feel as if everyone around you had the same sort of relationship as alcohol as what you did, or did you feel slightly different?
Honestly, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on this. I do feel like mine was slightly different, and I think I actually knew that from a very early age. Obviously, growing up in Bristol and a lot of towns in the UK, they're very similar. You feel like there's not a great deal else to do other than, go out, get drunk, go to parties. It feels like that is really your only option. You kind of get sucked into this world at a very young age. And I remember kind of in even kind of 14, 15 years old, just taking it that little bit too far and recognizing that the next day, it was almost like I didn't have this off switch that other people seemed to have even back then. But I kind of, I put it down to, oh, it's okay, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. It's just one of those things, I just get a bit carried away. But I think over the years, it's kind of been a voice in me that I just could no longer ignore. And I think that I have now noticed that I believe other people do have similar patterns, and which is why I'm trying to spread awareness, because I think there's a lot more people than I suppose I realized back then actually do have this problematic relationship with alcohol, where you're not on the kind of the extreme side where you need help because it's a daily battle you're facing, but you do have a problem when you do drink. And I think there is this grey area that a lot of people don't know really exists, which is where I sort of sat in, and that's where the awareness comes. So I think, just to obviously circle back, I did know, I was very aware of it, but I think I chose to ignore it for a long time until it got to the point where I could no longer ignore it and I just had to face it. And it's actually the best thing I've ever done. And I wish I faced it sooner, if I'm honest. But
Yeah.
hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Do you think that, like that, the fact that we sort of grew up in environments that everyone around you is doing it, and even though you sort of noticed in yourself that it's maybe not normal, the fact that, like, I don't want to say that people encourage you to just carry on, but nobody really, well, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but nobody really ever highlights the fact that, oh, mate, like, you're taking this a bit too far, or
Absolutely.
Or even if, like, in the moment, maybe somebody might say to you, oh, settle down. By next weekend, people are encouraging you to repeat what you just did. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've always found that crazy, because, like, if you were to do that in any other environment, people would be like, mate, what are you doing? We spoke to you about this last week. Like, I don't understand how society at large doesn't correct that pattern. I don't know if you've thought about that much, or...
I have, and I think, do you know what? I think it's actually, there's more of like an educational piece to this, I think, because it's also, you can't assume that people also know things themselves. And I think I've really actually had to, teach myself that as well, because I thought the same, I was like, surely the people around me can see that this isn't serving me, and I'm doing stupid things, and they're trying to comfort me, which is amazing, and that's obviously what you want from your loved ones, to just try and brush it off. They would be like, oh, you might have got a bit carried away, but don't worry, no one cares, just don't worry about it. And I think it's more that that's the only way that they can soothe you, because they don't know any different themselves. And I think that's been a really powerful thing. It's like, actually, maybe that person, doesn't actually know how to deal with this either. And we kind of assume people do, but they don't. So
it's literally that thing of, like, you don't know what you don't know.
100%. Absolutely.
But just, I've got so much that I kind of want to cover, but quickly while we're on it, like, on that, how have you felt now? Because you've made such big changes, right? And because how long have you, like, been sober now?
It'll be 2 years next month, so in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, wow. Like, congrats. That's mega. Yeah. But yeah, all right. So, like, you're 2 years sober, basically, which is amazing. Do you still struggle with the fact of, you now know what you know, right? You've educated yourself, and you've really took the time to not just learn what's right for you, but socially where things kind of have gone a little bit awry. You've kind of learned about yourself what isn't or wasn't right, and you've also now sort of spent the time to learn socially sort of where things maybe are breaking down a little bit. Has it been hard for you to maybe talk to people that you obviously care about, because you're now educated, so naturally I guess that you probably want to try and help people close to you, but they maybe don't want to be helped, or they're just happy doing what they're doing? Have you struggled with that side of things?
I think the more I've become more aware is probably the best way to put it, because I think something I've had to learn massively myself is that you really can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. No matter how much you tell someone, something, ultimately that decision comes down to them, and them also getting to a point where they're so tired of their own patterns and behavior that they're actually ready to make that change. Because I think it can be counterproductive sometimes, and people who are struggling will come to you because they know you've had a similar relationship yourself,
Yeah.
as a way to soothe themselves, but actually they're not doing anything to change that. And I think I've really recognized where I can help and where I can support, but also where I need to step back because it's not my place, and that person also needs to make that change for them. And I
Yeah.
think if you're not changing for yourself, you're never going to make the tough decisions.
Yeah.
If you try to change for someone else, it's never going to work. It needs to be for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting that sort of how you said that. Actually, it's one of the things that when I was reading your book, I was, as much as obviously you are speaking specifically about sort of like alcohol and that sort of thing, I think a lot of the points that you touch on almost are transferable to just life in general.
100%.
I think, and it's something I kind of want to touch on a bit later as well, but it's almost like that. Why? It's not the reason, it's not that you are drinking, it's like, why are you drinking? Like, what's the reason for the alcohol? And I've spoken about this on previous podcasts with people, and it then relates to like people could have problems with food or drugs or sometimes even like sport and stuff. Like people can take that too far. And it's kind of being honest with yourself and unraveling, why am I
What are you running away
continuing?
from?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it's interesting, super interesting.
I think that's something I have massively realized throughout this whole process is it's actually not about the alcohol to an extent. Alcohol is fueling things, and it's giving you a bit of a release within that moment as like a distraction that you need. But ultimately, there's a lot of things that you need to unravel in yourself that is actually the reason you've got to this point where you do have a problematic relationship with alcohol, or maybe it's food, or maybe it's something else. But there's a reason that you're trying to distract yourself so much.
Yes,
and I think it's recognizing that's the big thing. For sure.
100%. Yeah. So with that, then, I mean, there must have been like a tipping point for you, like almost like an epiphany moment, or however people like to categorize it. But was there that moment for you, or were you sort of thinking about making this change for a long time, and then one big moment sort of like almost led you to really forcing that change?
I think I've known for a long time, but knowing and taking action are two very different things, as we know.
Yeah.
But I think I did try to stop on a few occasions. So I'd have a couple of weeks off and be like, oh, I really want to stop drinking. And then obviously a couple of weeks go by, and then you forget about the silly decisions you've made and how you were feeling. So then you're like, oh, I'm probably fine now. I'm fixed. It's been a couple of weeks. And then the same kind of vicious cycles just rear their ugly head. And I think I had so many of those that I got to the point just before stopping where I had a heavy night. And obviously living in London, I know Bristol's very similar as well, but like London's particularly bad for, work hard, play hard culture. You go out, it's not just a Friday, it's, you could go out on a Monday if you wanted to, and everywhere would be just as busy a lot of the time. So I did get into a bit of a habit of going out a couple of times a week just to the pub. But then, you say it's one or two, it ends up being 5 or 6, and you feel horrendous the next day. And I think I just had one of those moments where we were in the pub and it was just supposed to be for one drink, and we were there for, till it closed, and got home, and I was with my partner at the time and his brother, and my partner was very good at just, taking himself to bed and just knowing when to call it a day. And I've never been that person. I've always been the person who just wanted to continue and just not stop. And I just didn't have an off switch. And I was sat there, and I was just drinking by myself. And even in my kind of drunk state, I was like, what am I doing? And then I just woke up the next day. I felt awful. I missed a meeting with my manager because it was a Thursday, so I was still working on the Friday. And the pain I felt and the shame just got to the point where it was just breaking point, and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I was like, I really deserve better. And I think that was such a pivotal moment that actually I realized my worth was more than this. And I think that's the place you need to get to. think if you think you don't
Yeah.
deserve better, you're never going to try and give yourself better, but you need to see that actually this is not serving me at all. And you can't run away from it. You just have, everyone kind of has that moment, I think, where you're like, no, enough's enough now.
Yeah, it's really funny. I think regardless of what like anyone's dealing with, whether
Hmm.
it be alcohol or drugs or a relationship or whatever it is, it's almost like you have to get to, like, for lack of a better term, like breaking point,
Hmm.
to then for it to
Absolutely.
like slap you in the face, and then you just like give your head a wobble and be like,
Hmm.
what am I doing? Like, I want so much more for myself,
Hmm.
and this thing is just really like restricting me from reaching, as cringy as this might sound, my full
No,
potential.
it's
Uh,
absolutely true. And I think like another, just to kind of, I suppose, just to pivot off that, it's, I think and I'm sure a lot of people do this as well, we're quick to find, we'll blame every single thing in our lives other than alcohol, or like the thing
yeah,
that is consuming us, because we kind of act naive, and we're like, I
yeah,
suppose deep down we know it's probably that is causing the issues, but we don't want to face that. So we try to fix everything else before actually dealing with the problem itself, until it
100%. Yeah,
no longer allows you to hide away from it, I think.
yeah. One thing I want to ask you, just to circle back a little bit, is
Hmm.
when you like sort of first started drinking, like as a teenager and stuff like that. One thing I sort of always think of is, like, as I sort of, we spoke a little bit off camera, me and my wife were having a baby, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in this phase of my life at the minute where I'm really thinking about basically the sort of parent that I want to be.
Hmm.
But the reason I bring this up is because now, obviously, naturally, I've reflected a lot the past 18 months, 2 years, just on life in general. But it's made me start to think about, are, are is some of the relationships, or the negative relationship I had with alcohol, a part of sort of like the role models that I had around me at the time?
Hmm.
So obviously, naturally, now I've started to think, like, how's my parents' relationship with alcohol? How are some of my close friends' relationship? Like, like work,
Yeah.
like
Your
people that have just been
surroundings.
pivotal in
Yeah.
my life. Yeah. And I just wonder, how was that for you? Like, was drinking a big part of, like, whether it be like family culture or just like in
Mhm.
your friendship group, or were you sort of like, in some regards, like the front runner, and you were like leading the charge in regards to alcohol?
I wouldn't say, I definitely was surrounded by it for sure. Like my mum and dad are incredible. I have a great relationship with them now, but I think growing up, as a teenager, it was very different. Um, my mum's never really been a drinker. She also really couldn't drink when she was younger, and I do follow my mum in a lot of respects, so that also makes a lot of sense now as to why
Yeah.
I also aren't a very good drinker. Um, my dad is quite a social drinker, but again, he handles it well. So I think and also obviously growing up in Bristol, a lot of my friends, they were also drinkers. I think there was some in my, I suppose, immediate social group where they would equally take it that little bit too far. But I think a lot of the times looking back, I was always the one kind of encouraging us to go out and be like, oh, should we go
Yeah.
out tonight? And just see who was around, put some feelers out. And I was just always, I suppose, a bit of a party animal. And I think it's really funny when people meet me now, because they meet me as the version I am now, and they have no idea of this person, I used
Yeah.
to be in the past, and they see me as this like angel who does nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have no idea, my past. I used to be a wild child. And I think it's funny that our surroundings do have an impact for sure, but I think we also have to acknowledge our part in certain things as
Oh,
well. Like,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The only reason I ask is, it's like, my parents would be happy for me to admit it. Like, my family
yeah,
are drinkers.
yeah.
Like that. That's
Most
just the
are though.
environment.
Most are,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Especially in the
And then I
UK.
think, yeah, 100%. And then I think, then naturally for me, maybe I some of like my no, actually all of my best friends
Hmm.
are drinkers.
Yeah,
And so naturally for me, it's like I grew up in an environment where everyone around me, like, drinking is not just socially acceptable, it is like just what we do.
yeah. What else would
So
you do,
then,
right?
yeah, right,
That's the mindset.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then obviously naturally I started, I guess, gravitating towards people in my sort of late teens, early 20s that I guess followed the same like ethos, maybe, I don't know. And yeah, it's only now, I guess, sort of similar to yourself, like I've decided to make a change and I've stepped back and I'm like, what? Like, how did I go from drinking just being the norm, and I've gone all this time and not really met people that it wasn't normal? That kind of baffled
this
me.
whole
But now,
different way
obviously,
of life. Yeah,
and now that I'm not drinking, I'm just meeting people all the time. They're like, "Oh no, I've never really drunk," and that blows my mind. Like, it actually blows my mind.
I completely resonate with that. You know, the more I meet new people, the more I come across people who are similar to me now. And it's because you attract those, because you're also on the same level. And it's such a wonderful thing, I think, because you realize there's this whole other world that you had no idea existed, because you just assume that everybody just does the same thing, when in reality, that was just our little bubble, I suppose, of reality.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, I suppose, that you've been able to kind of gravitate out of that as well, and you're happy about it.
Oh yeah, I'm super happy. Yeah. One thing that really stood out to me in your book. Well, first off, have you ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear? Have you read that book?
I started reading it. I didn't finish it, if I had to be perfectly honest. But...
Fair, yeah. Because I read that book before I even thought about quitting alcohol, I think. But there were certain bits of it. I just read it out of pure interest about how habits are formed and stuff like that. And then I've gone on a bit of a journey. But
it's a slippery slope. But...
yeah, right. You speak a lot about journaling, and before going out to like social events and stuff like that, you were like almost preempting that something could be a problem. So you were like pre-planning a solution. And he speaks about that a lot. And as soon as I was reading your book, it stood out to me. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. And I went back and I got the book and I was like, looking at some stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to imply that you've copied it or anything like that, but it was just super interesting to me how you had come to that realization. And, he was talking about it, but in a completely sort of different field.
Yeah.
And my question was, have you always journaled, or is this something relatively new for you?
I did when I was a lot younger, and obviously the nature of what I was journaling was very different to what it's been recently. But I think I probably stopped journaling maybe when I was like 12, like super young. And then up until a couple of years ago, I started again. I actually started journaling properly when I decided to remove alcohol. And it was kind of like it went part and parcel in a way. And it's been the best thing I've done. And I do a lot of I write a lot of thoughts and feelings on my notes on my phone. And I think that's kind of my way of journaling as well when I'm on the go, because if I feel a certain way, I just write it down, and you just become a lot more clearer in your mind when you do that, because it just gets it out. And I think planning has been great, because I think I've wanted to go into situations feeling prepared, and I think doing that has helped, because it means I can play the story forward in a way, and actually think, well, this is probably how it's going to go, because this is how it usually goes. Okay, so what are we going to do differently this time? How are we going to feel tomorrow? And it just sort of brings you back to why you're doing this. I think bringing yourself back to that why, why am I even removing alcohol? Why have I decided to remove it? And it's actually, I think it makes you feel more grounded, just even if you spend a couple of minutes reflecting and writing that down. It's so beneficial. And I encourage anyone, especially if they are in the early stages of removing alcohol, just to do that, even if it's a couple of sentences and you just get into a habit of doing it. It's so powerful, I think.
Yeah. I think it comes back to that, just being honest with yourself. Like, you've been in these situations so many times before. Like, I think like you spoke about, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you went on a trip to Ibiza with the girls and stuff. And like, you've been on girls' holidays. You know what everyone's going to get up to. Why are you going to lie? Why are you going to lie to yourself and think that it's any different this time around? Just be honest and say, right, like, because I think you said like, one of the bits was like dinner with the girls, I'm going to drink like 0% Heineken or whatever it was, and stuff like that. And I thought it was really interesting because I went on, obviously this year is like my first year sober. So this year I've had a few weddings, a few stag do's, all of these things. And
a lot of challenges.
Yeah, right. And I think for me, thankfully, removing alcohol for me wasn't super hard, but it was more of the fact that when I go on a stag do, am I still willing to be an absolute nightmare to have fun with my mates and do all the same? Because I'd be lying to myself and be lying to everyone listening if I said that when I was drinking and I turned into a bit of a nightmare, sometimes it was fun. Like, I can't lie, like, honestly.
Yeah,
and
of course, there's
if
reasons
people
why we
turn
do
around,
it, you know, like
yeah,
there was
right.
reasons we do it. Yeah.
And it made, before I went on the stag do and stuff, I was thinking, like, because for like one of them, for example, we went to Belfast and I drink Guinness anyway, so I would have been slamming back the Guinness. And I was like, right, well, it's no biggie because I can drink Guinness Zero. That's cool.
Yeah.
In the circle, if anyone was to look over, it just looks like I'm just having a few pints
Guinness
with the boys. Yeah, right. And not that I necessarily care about whether people judge me for not drinking or not, but I just thought like that kind of takes the pressure off people asking me why I'm not drinking, because typically I would have been the person on the table, like downing pints of beer and whatever.
Sounds familiar, sadly.
Yeah. And then, like it was like you wrote about, like you preempted it. I was literally sat on the plane reading a book. All the boys are drinking, and I was reading this book, thinking to myself, like, right, when we get there, we're going to go out. Everyone's going to be out all night. Blah blah blah. This and that. How's it going? And I was just like envisioning the whole weekend, and it basically played out exactly like I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
But it just made me at peace knowing that, like, oh, I know it's going to go this way. I'm just going to do something slightly different.
Yeah, it's that acceptance, I think, is so key.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah,
it's, you know, I think one thing being sober does teach you is that you no longer lie to yourself. You know, sometimes we tell ourselves these stories and we're like, oh, maybe it's going to be different this time. You know, maybe I won't take it too far. In reality, it's never. You know, you're always going to take it too far. It's just, it is what it is. And I think having that acceptance takes such, I suppose, such control away in the best way, because you accept the situation for what it is, you know how it's going to play out, and you're also okay with it. And I think that's the main thing. I think it's when you have this resentment of, I'm missing out, you know, I'm the victim, and that's when you feel like you're not comfortable in those situations. But I've probably enjoyed myself so much more at social events being sober than I ever did before, because I remember them and I feel fully present and I just feel free. And it's like such a strange thing when people hear that, because, you know, you assume that alcohol gives you that confidence to be free. But actually, when you remove it, you just feel so much more authentic, and you're really present in the moment. And it's just the best thing ever, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think also on it, because you sort of mentioned that, you know, you would end up drinking sort of a couple of times midweek, and then I presume then you'd probably then go to like a big social event on a weekend that predominantly revolves around drinking, right? Yeah. I've personally, like, the more I've thought about it, it almost as if, say for example, you drink on, let's just say a Monday. Tuesday you have sort of the downers and you're in the dumps a little bit. Wednesday you're sort of not in the middle somewhere. Then by Thursday you feel good. You go out again. But it's almost as if by the time Thursday you start to feel better, then you're in an environment where everyone's drinking. You say to yourself, oh, I'm going to have a drink, because almost like you need the Dutch courage or the confidence or like to feel socially involved. But then by the Friday, the post-drink anxieties are like so heavy that, you know, like that cycle just repeats again.
You're a broken person by the time Sunday comes along. Yeah.
So then what I've sort of found is when I stopped drinking alcohol, the first few social events almost felt scary. Scary is a bit of a strong word, but intimidating.
It's probably the right word though. But it is scary. You know, it's the unknown.
And then the longer I didn't have it, the more I realised that, oh, actually, the drinking didn't help me feel confident. It just increased the anxiety. So then the next time I came round to a social environment, that anxiety would start to bubble up a little bit, which made me think I need a drink. And
But you don't. Yeah.
yeah,
100%.
like I had been selling it to myself in reverse the whole time. It's almost like people say to themselves, I need the drink to curb the anxiety, but in actual fact, the drink caused the anxiety 2 days ago. And
and that's where this cycle comes in, and we get into this vicious cycle. And I think the more I research alcohol, it's actually so enlightening that, because I think we think that it takes away the anxiety, and it does initially for, maybe an hour, but in reality, it's just disguising it and it's fueling anxiety. So I think when people do struggle with their mental health, drinking is possibly the worst thing you could be doing, because it will latch on to any intrusive thoughts and any insecurities and anxious thoughts you have, and it just fuels them. And I think we then look to it to soothe us because we're feeling anxious, as you said, from drinking a few nights before. But it's actually, we've not given our body a break to actually even reset from that night of drinking, and we're already back. So it's constantly in like a fight or flight mode, I would say. It's never getting to the place where it actually feels rested and at peace, because we never give it the chance to. And that's why so many people struggle with their mental health, I think, who do drink, because they don't have 100%. The space to clear their thoughts.
That's kind of what forced me to really stop drinking, because I was helping my mum to care for my nan, and so I stopped drinking initially for 9 months, and then basically my nan died and my nan passed. So then afterwards, I was just like, oh no, it's okay, thank you. But after my nan passed, I was like, I can drink now, it's fine. And I didn't drink anywhere near as much. I barely drunk, but it would slowly start to get introduced into my life a little bit. And then even if it was only like 1 or 2 drinks and stuff, since the very first time I stopped drinking, I haven't been drunk since, basically, I don't think. And then about, coming up to a year, it would have been a year after my nan died, I was in Malta visiting my dad, and I was having a few drinks with my dad, and it basically just got to the point where I was like, I had 3 drinks yesterday, I've woke up today and I don't feel as good. And it's like, I had like 3 beers yesterday.
Notice it big time.
Yeah, and I started to notice it. So then I basically like I said, like, it'd be end of next month, I'll be a year. But I was in Malta with my dad, and I was just like, I'm just going to stop drinking for a year and just see what happens. Like, I knew I had a busy year coming up with weddings and stag do's. I was just like, if it was almost like a challenge to myself.
I was going to say, if I get through this, I can get through anything.
Then I definitely don't need alcohol in my life. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. And I sort of challenged myself to it. And then the longer this year has gone on, it's almost like a little bit of regret. I'm like, how did I not come to this realization sooner?
Yeah, 100%.
But then also, I don't know if you think, but now I'm glad, like, guess what? I'm 31, I think. Are you 30?
I'm 30, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So now I kind of think like, well, yes. Sorry, just outed you. But it's like, I could regret the fact that the past 16, 17 years, whatever, I've been drinking, but then I'm actually really proud that I've come to this realization. I've got the next 40, 50, 60 years actually just being completely straight with myself.
Absolutely. It's so exciting as well. And I think it's, I've had the same thoughts, and I thought, I wish I realized this, but I think I actually realized it at the perfect time in my life. And I think I needed to go through everything I did to actually get to this place where I don't feel like, I feel like I can close that door on alcohol and be very happy about it, because it got to the point where it was just enough's enough. So I don't feel like, I don't regret anything either. I've made a lot of really silly mistakes from being under the influence of alcohol, and we can only blame alcohol to an extent. Ultimately, we are making those choices, but I don't regret any of it, because I truly am so happy in myself now that I'm like, actually, I needed to go through all of this to actually get to this point. And I am very spiritual, and I do believe everything does happen for a reason. That's just kind of my mindset, and it's actually helped me become more positive. So I'm the same as you. I think it's exciting to look ahead more so than try to, I suppose, try to reflect on the past too much, accept it for what it is, accept what it's taught you, and just be excited for what's to come and this new person you are, and, the new things and
Yeah.
people you get to meet and experience. I think it's great.
I think it's evident though, speaking to you, that you've spent the time to reflect, and the past is the past, you can't change it, but the things that you are able to admit with yourself that was wrong or you shouldn't have done or whatever it may be, at least you've learnt from it. Because I think it's so easy to just shut the door and say the past is the past and I'm not going to ever look at it again.
No, you need to take a dive into the past as well before you get to this point. 100%.
100%. Yeah. One thing that really stood out to me, you sort of mentioned in regards to inner work and self-reflecting, you called it shadow work. Tell me a bit more about that. I've never heard it referred to as shadow work.
Oh, really? It's really interesting if you look into shadow work. It's basically, you get to the point where you kind of call yourself out whilst you're in the moment. So you're constantly in this state of reflection almost. So it's I think I got to the point where if something was triggering me, I'd actually recognize that it was triggering me and sit and actually try to understand firstly why I feel triggered. So if, I was at a social event and I felt that nobody was really talking to me, for example, because I wasn't drinking, and I'd leave there feeling really kind of isolated and triggered by something. And I think deep down, just as that as an example, it was because I didn't like the fact that I thought people thought I was boring, or,
Yeah.
And I think that's taken me a long time and a lot of work to get to a place where I'm actually, I know I'm not. So it's just again, it's that acceptance, right? And I think shadow work is such a beautiful thing for anyone to do, because you just call yourself out on your bullshit in no other way of putting it. And you're like, well, actually, why do I feel like this? What is this trying to teach me? What can I learn from here? And I think if you constantly are in that state of reflection, when especially going through, removing alcohol, you will only improve and grow and get better. It's definitely something that's not going to go the opposite way by doing it, for sure.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I've been there. I think I'm. Do you think it's something that you ever stop doing? Because I feel as if now I've started, I kind of can't stop to some degree.
No, you can't go back. And that's also amazing, I think, as well, because it's well, what's next, and it's, you want to enjoy the process, but equally it's so contagious, as we said earlier, just seeing where you can go and pushing yourself to be this best version of yourself. Why would you not want to do that? I think that's such a special thing to see, actually, no, I've got this opportunity to have this life. Let's just see where we can go with it. And if you can help people along the way and inspire people, there's truly nothing better than that, in my opinion, from your own kind of experiences. So yeah, no, it's amazing. There's no end.
I agree.
On it, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I'm happy about that or if that scares me, but
deep down, I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
And you'll be a wonderful dad because of it as well, because you're constantly reflecting.
I hope so. Yeah. It's, in that respect, it is the thing that I'm probably most proud of that I've started, because I don't think I ever would have thought so deeply about the sort of parent I want to be, or I don't know. It's it's a big can of worms that's unraveled now, but well, it's exciting. It really is. With that though, you've kind of got into this habit now, similar to me, of constantly wanting to push yourself and grow and be better and constantly improve. But I think with that comes, especially for me, a level of feeling a little bit uneasy if I'm not working towards something and chasing and growing. How has that been for you? Because I guess I guess this is a two-parter. How has that been for you? And have you got to a point with the alcohol that you feel as if you're kind of on top of that, so you're now pursuing other things, or is alcohol still always underlying for you? What's the sort of balance like with that?
I think it's definitely, I've definitely closed a door on that, in the sense that now my mindset has shifted where I'm so okay with that, and that closing that door, that I now want to help other people. And I think when you get to the point where you feel that you can help other people is the place where, you have sort of you have drawn a line under that, and you've dealt with it. I think spending so much time alone has really been the most amazing thing I could have done, and I encourage anybody to just do it. It sounds really scary, but it's so liberating, and you learn so much about yourself in the process. I took about 10 months, I want to say, in total of solo traveling. And I know it's really cliche, but you do find yourself in a way, especially if you do it if you have a certain approach to traveling. There is the approach where you go away and you go drinking every night and you just meet loads
Yeah.
of random people, which is great. You meet lots of new faces, you get new experiences. But the drinking side, I think, not having that and going away just me, and spending so much time alone, it just made me get to know myself and take a deep dive in things that I probably wouldn't have done had I not stepped away from my environment. And I think in that I've realized, I want to work on so many different things. There's so many things I want to do, and I'm finding that I actually don't feel like I have enough time at the moment. And it's like I just this month it's been an almost sudden shift that I'm like so excited for life and all these possibilities that I just want to get my hands on. And it's just funny how it can change so quickly from you feeling like you have no time, but in reality it's just how you're spending your time. And
Yeah.
alcohol, again, when you are in the bricks of having a bit of a toxic relationship with alcohol and you're in that vicious cycle, you feel like you have no time, but you do have lots of time. You're just spending it in the wrong
Yeah.
environments and, doing things that are just passing time very quickly, but not getting you any further to where you want to be. I think it's recognizing that
Yeah.
as well.
Which I think, do you think that's part of it as well? Again, it's like that vicious loop of you deep down, you've probably got all these dreams and goals and aspirations, but because you got drunk last night and you're hungover, you're just going to feel sorry about
All goes
it.
out the
So
window.
then,
Absolutely.
yeah, right. So
100%.
then it's like you're in that pit of like self wallowing, and then by the time the next weekend comes around, and you have that choice again. It's like, do I pursue goals or do I go out and drink? It's like, well, socially everyone else is going out drinking, so I guess I'm gonna go do that. And it's
I think that's why the self-love is so important, because I think it's recognizing that you have those two options, right? It's like an angel and devil moment. One is serving you, one isn't serving you. And I think it's being okay with disappointing people and saying no to them because you're choosing yourself. And I think some people will understand that, and they're people that will always support you. And if that is a problem for other people, then maybe that's time to reflect on that relationship. I think it's when you're ready to choose yourself, that's no longer a question, because you kind of know, you're like, actually, well, no, this is the route I need to go in for me to serve me. This one, it might be fun, but actually I should be spending my time prioritizing other things. And again, it's recognizing that.
One thing I think I've thought about a lot is the difference between whether something's fun and whether it fulfills me. And again, it's like
there's a place for both, I think, as well. It's just how much.
Right, definitely.
Each.
And I don't know what you think, but for example, going out drinking with my friends and going to parties and all this stuff, it was fun, but it didn't fulfill me. Whereas now, kind of like you said, like trying to help people, and the whole reason I started this, right, is to just try and do something for people.
This is incredible.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'm figuring it out. I'm trying.
You're doing great.
But one thing I sort of spent a lot of time thinking about was the fact that I spent so much time just having short-term fun, but now on the back end, that was just memories that I look back on, and it really gave me nothing. Whereas like having a conversation like this with you, like I learned something from you.
Yeah.
People listen. Hopefully it helps them. That fulfills me. Like I carry that with me much further down the line.
Yeah. I agree.
And I've kind of got into that place of just trying to do more of that. And I feel as if that's something that doesn't really get taught to you. I don't know what you think.
No, it doesn't. I think that's very much something, again, it comes from knowing yourself, I think, because I've had similar, I think I've gone through a journey the last couple of years where at times I probably did isolate myself a little bit too much, in the sense of, and looking back on it, it's probably because I didn't quite know how to deal with those scenarios. And I think when you don't know how to deal with certain scenarios, isolating yourself seems like the first step, because you kind of go into survival mode a little bit. And I think now I've reached a place where I do feel happy and really content in myself. I'm now actually incorporating what does fun look like to me, and what is
Yeah.
bringing me joy, because I think that's also so important. I think I'm finding where I'm doing a lot at the moment, I actually forget that, you need to have a bit of fun as well sometimes. So I think there's a place for everything, but I think in yourself, I suppose, when you have filled your own cup, where kind of you want to put the
Yeah.
overflow in the best way of saying it. And I think I'm very similar to you. I would go to lots of parties, and actually you feel like you're having fun in the moment, but in reality, I don't know if you are actually having fun, or if it's just you want to keep busy, you want a distraction. I think having a deep, meaningful conversation with somebody is 10 times more fulfilling than being in a room
Yeah.
full of people who don't really understand you. But I think everybody's different as well. It's knowing what you like, but you don't know that until you do that inner work.
With like going to social events and speaking to people and that sort of stuff, have you, how do I say, I don't want to offend the people that that may listen to this. How have you found being able to take yourself away from those environments, because you've just got to a point in the evening or the day where you're just like, I've had enough of this now. How has that been for you? Because for me, it's been amazing. Like, I'm home and in bed by 11, and I'm cool, and like,
Yeah,
it's the best thing I ever did.
absolutely.
How was it for you navigating that though at the start? Because I feel like it's a bit of a tightrope, because socially you feel as if you should stay, but then you want to go, and if you tell people that you're going,
Mhm.
then it's like all eyes on you. Like, well, why are you leaving? Don't you want to be here? Don't you
Yeah.
want to hang out with us anymore?
Do you know?
How's that been?
Do you know one thing that's been an incredible eye opener? And I'm going to say this, I feel like it will help a lot of people. Is that I think we assume people think of us a lot more than they actually do, in the nicest
Yeah.
possible way.
Yeah.
Like, even,
Yeah.
and I think I was the same as you. In the beginning, I would be like, oh no, what are people going to think of me if I just decide to leave? Or what are they going to think when I tell them that I don't drink anymore? And I had those moments, and I think I felt anxious in the moment, because I'd already played the story in my head of, oh, they're going to think I'm this, they're going to think I'm that. And I think accepting that actually nobody cares. A lot of the time at these
No.
events, people are usually too drunk to even notice when you leave, or
Yeah.
what they even spoke to you about. And I think as soon as that penny dropped, I was like, actually, I'm just going to do what I want. And sometimes I
Yeah.
won't go to events if I feel like they're not going to fulfill me. And I think that's probably been the hardest part, but also the most liberating part as well. It does all come back to self-love, as I've mentioned, because actually
Yeah.
it's asking yourself, am I really going to enjoy this, or do I just feel like I have to go to this? When in reality, you don't have to do anything.
No.
You really
Yeah.
don't. Like, and people either, like, they get it or they don't. And like I said, the people who are truly meant to be in your life and support you understand if, that's what you need to do for you. But I think having the power to say no a lot more, but that comes with confidence. And that's where the sober journey is so special, because you build that
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I get that. I
Hmm.
100% I get that.
Yeah.
How has it been for you, like finding new hobbies and stuff, and like finding your new version of fun?
I think running has been the best thing I have ever gotten into, in so many ways. And it just kind of went part and parcel with also quitting alcohol. It was a worthy distraction that I could just get my teeth stuck into, because I think when I've really noticed about myself that when I enjoy something, I am really passionate about it, and I kind of give it 100%. And I see that as a great thing within myself, but also, again, that's probably why I had a bad
As we
relationship
find out.
yeah, with
Yeah.
alcohol, because,
Yeah.
I loved something and I just went full steam into it. But it's positive in this respect when you're doing things that are to benefit you. Running has been amazing. It's given me something to focus on, but it's also so good for your mind. Even more so, I suppose, than actually the kind of the fitness side in a way. It just does wonders for your mind. And I think I saw that as a bit of an escape, which my old escape would have been going to the pub. But
Yeah.
my new escape was going for a run and listening to a podcast and listening to a sobriety podcast where I could listen to people sharing similar stories. And when you do feel like you're a little bit alone, having that comfort of listening to someone go through something similar to you is just so amazing, because you realize that actually it's not just you, you're not the only one who has
Yeah.
this problem. And with that has come, I've been able to focus towards goals with my running, and it just gives it gives your mind something to focus on other than worrying about not drinking anymore. And with that, I've just been able to develop other hobbies as well. And, I now love yoga. And I think you just need to try things that you think you could like, but also appreciate that you're not going to like everything. I tried to get into a run club and I just realized actually that's not for me, because as much as I love socializing, I'm not as social as I used to be, as I found. Now I've removed alcohol, I actually am a bit of a hermit. And I actually just like running by myself and zoning out. And I think until you try things, you don't know. So I would say to anyone who is in the process of removing alcohol and you think you have, all this spare time and you want to fill it, just go and try lots of different things and something will stick. But then it's okay if other things don't. I think as a society, we think that everything we try we have to really love, and it's like, well, actually you don't. You can say that, oh, that's not for me, and that's fine. You can try something else, and you'll eventually find something that does make you happy and gives you a focus. So
Yeah, so good. I was laughing, sorry, when you said yoga, because I've also started running. I have also started doing yoga.
Josh, I told you,
yeah,
it's slippery slope, but it's the best one.
It is. Yeah, I think, like for me anyway, with the running, I do run. I honestly hate running,
No.
but
Now you won't. I'll ask you in 6 months. You'll say something different.
No, I'm running a 120-kilometer ultra marathon.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, next month. So basically, I'll end up being a year sober. And then the day after I run the ultra marathon.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's kind of back into, like we were saying earlier, about like almost like constantly wanting to improve. Like the running, it's really hard. Like I don't, and because it's hard and I see myself improving, it just feeds back into me that I'm like, well, I didn't want to run today. I did run, and I actually did better than I did last week or last month or whenever. Look at what you can do if you just stick at it.
It's the discipline, for sure. I think now, whereas before I felt like I ran as a hobby. Now I have to run, and I can feel it within myself when I haven't. If I'm feeling a bit flat and my mood is low, I'm like, well, actually, I've not ran as much this week, and I know that's why. And I think it is so addictive, because once you take it away and you do build these healthy habits, you suddenly do realize when, something, if you are feeling a bit flat, it's usually because of that. It's usually because these habits that are so great for your mind that maybe you've been lacking. And I think, again, it's just recognizing that and not thinking, oh, why am I in a bad mood? Playing a victim card. Well, no, you know why you're in a bad mood, because you've not done the things that put you in a good mood. And you need to do more of those things. And I think running's amazing for that, and it does really test you. And I think regardless of how fit you are as a person, running will always challenge anyone, because you always can reach a new level. And I think that's why it's so amazing. You're not supposed to enjoy it.
No, like it never gets easier.
No,
but then that's the best thing about it, I think. One thing as well, you mentioned about the podcast, and this is, honestly, I'll be shameless, it's a bit of a tire pump for me, but I get what you mean though about listening to podcasts, because you mention it in your book a lot and it really stands out to me. But whenever you make a big change in your life, there is just that really lonely chapter, and everyone that you felt as if you could talk to previously, you kind of feel like you can't now, because
they don't really understand
they're still
you.
Yeah, right. And podcasts for me was like, I was dealing with some stuff and no one around me got it, because nobody else had ever around me had been through it. But then I was listening to podcasts, and then all of a sudden there's like this massive community of people that have done it, have lived it. And it's not just that they've lived it, but they've made their lives 100 times better off the back of it. That's what really got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, do you mind telling me a bit more about that? Like, have you always listened to podcasts, or was that something new that you sort of delved into, or how did that start?
I say I'd listened to podcasts, but I think my choice of podcast now is very different to what it would have been a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. And I think because I went through a stage, and I think this is probably going to, this is very vulnerable, but I think it's worthy to say, where I actually thought there was something wrong with me. And I was like, why am I like
Oh,
this as a person? Like when it came to drinking, and the next day I'd be in such a self-loathing state, and to the point where I really didn't know how much lower I could get, being perfectly honest. I touched on it slightly in the book, but I was really, in a bad place. And I kind of, I shut the outside world out because I didn't really know who to talk to, and I didn't feel like anybody would actually understand that. And I think having that time and just having so much alone time, and then also discovering the podcast, were just such an amazing coincidence, because without, I know this is going to sound very crazy, but like without listening to one particular podcast, I don't think I would have actually continued at that point of continuing to be sober, because it was just such a support system for me. And that's why I think being so vocal online, and obviously doing podcasts such as this one, and just spreading awareness, is so special, and it's so impactful, because you never know who's actually watching. I think
yeah,
a lot of the time assume that just because people aren't liking things, that it means that people aren't engaging, when in reality so many people are viewing what you're saying. And when you start to get people reach out to you, it just shows you that it's worth it, because you are really helping people more than you even realize. And
yeah,
yeah, I think when you've gone through that journey yourself, and you've seen that how much it's helped you, it's almost evidence, core evidence, that that this is going to help other people as well. And again, nothing can compare to that feeling, I don't think.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I resonate and yeah, get that 100%. I think it's like putting yourself out there with whatever you're doing and just allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
It's really hard, isn't it? Like it's,
Yeah.
but I feel as if for me, and I don't know if you do, but it was almost part of, I had to almost do this, and maybe you had to write your book
Mhm.
to almost show yourself that I am okay.
Yeah, you're more capable than you
I had,
realize as well, I think.
yeah. And it's, as you say, like, it's just empowering.
Mhm.
Like, and I think if the way I kind of look at it is like, if I can do this for myself and sit here and have this chat with you and be honest and, whatever, and put this out on the internet and it's there now, like, it just is what it is. I just really hope that somebody else can watch this and be me or you 2 years ago or whatever, and come across this and listen to it and be like, oh, well, if these two can do it,
Mhm.
then why can't
Absolutely.
I?
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's definitely the sort of attitude I got into it. And I think maybe I'm a little bit, like, I've played ice hockey my whole life and stuff, and I'm naturally quite competitive,
Mhm.
like with myself anyway. So a bit like the challenge, like for me, stopping alcohol was a challenge.
Yeah.
So that
Whatever
fires me
works,
up because I was,
exactly. Whatever
yeah,
your
right.
motivator is, dive into that.
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
Yeah. What would you say, like, sobriety has given you the most? What surprised you the most about sobriety?
I think when I was younger, I was always like, I always felt capable, and I always wanted to do things. And I think I lost that spark for a while. I think something within me has constantly been like, you can do more for yourself. You have things to say, and you should say them. And I've always had this like urge to create things. And I think sobriety, more than anything, has rebuilt such self-trust in myself, because I think after years of drinking, I've I lost a lot of the kind of that trust within me, and I'd always go to other people to kind of reassure me that I was making the right decisions, and always look for them to make decisions on my life. And I think the last couple of years have been so impactful, because I don't really need that anymore. I feel so in tune with myself that if I do something, I know that it's right for me, because I've decided it's right for me. And I think just getting to that place where I have that level of confidence within to trust my decisions has been the most amazing thing, because I think I'm bringing back the me that I used to love when I was younger. And that's the
Yeah.
most, I suppose that's the most impactful way of wording it, is like all the things you loved about yourself, you get to actually bring back and see where you can go with
Yeah.
them. Because I think alcohol is so much more destructive than people realize. And I just can't stress that enough, that it really does eat away at our insecurities. It fuels off negativity. So if you feel that within you and you are drinking a lot, you're not going to suddenly wake up and feel positive. I'm just going to put it out there. You won't until you actually
Yeah.
remove it, because it's fueling those thoughts. It's not, getting rid of them by any means. Yeah.
I think, yeah, like, yeah, I get that. And look, we've spoke so much today about, just like mentally sort of how it affects you and like the benefits it can have in like your sort of personal life and that sort of thing. And we haven't even touched on like the actual physiological like health
Oh yeah,
benefits, right?
that
And like we
too.
could sit,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Just
like like we could
chuck
sit here
that
and
in
talk about
there.
that all day. Yeah, right. But I think like on that, like one thing that blows my mind with it is I think it's like one like drink of alcohol, like one beer or something, effectively takes like 7 days for your body to like process it and like get it out of your body. But then like I've been sober for like nearly a year. I think like honestly, genuinely, only recently now starting to feel like the full benefits
Hmm.
of like how much healthier I feel. And the reason I sort of said that is because like you said, like it takes time. And I think we're just so impatient, aren't we? Like you stop drinking alcohol, and like as you said earlier, like you might have gone like 2 or 3 weeks without a
Hmm.
drink, and then you'll go back
Yeah.
to
It's
it.
not working.
It's
Let's
like,
just go back. Yeah.
yeah,
100%.
right. But it's not like you seriously do have to
No,
just give it the time and the
you have
patience
to
it
commit
deserves.
to making the life change. I think
Yeah,
it's not just, it
I
doesn't just click and you're better the next
exactly.
day.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like it's like people. Like I'm not a big believer in like diets either.
Me
I think
neither.
it's
Not
like you
anymore.
choose to
Yeah.
make you change to make a lifestyle change, and then you roll with that.
Hmm.
Then again, I think it's like it kind of ties. It's a similar thing. It's like there's no diet for alcohol. It's like you either drink or you
Hmm.
don't. And okay, I guess maybe to some degree you can drink in moderation and fine. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say everyone's got to be sober. Like, not at all. But you definitely, as we've said so many times, you have to be self-aware enough to be like, is the amount of alcohol I'm drinking negatively impacting my life?
Hmm.
If it is, ultimately, the only option is, in my view, to stop
Get rid.
drinking.
Yeah.
Personally, yeah. One thing as well that really stood out to me is you referred to alcohol as a drug,
Hmm.
which I agree with. Right, I'm not bringing it up because I disagree. I agree with it is a drug, and some of the stats and stuff around it are absolutely,
Ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, like mind blowing. Have you always looked at it that way, or is that more of a
Absolutely not. Yeah. I could
yeah,
sit here and, pretend that I quit alcohol because of all the health benefits. And in reality, that wasn't the case. It wasn't serving me. I wasn't a good drinker, whatever that even means. I don't think, I
yeah,
don't think anyone's supposed to be a good drinker. But I think it's kind of gone hand in hand, that the sense of removing it and having to do, well, not having, choosing to do so much research for my book, and just in general, just out of curiosity and enjoyment to actually discover more about
yeah,
it. It's actually staggering that certain things aren't spoken about more. And I think I refer to it as a drug, and I've also started referring to it a lot more as a poison, because that's actually what it is.
yeah,
And I know it doesn't sound great, but in reality, it isn't great. And I think it blows my mind that, certain things are acceptable in society. Like if you say you don't do them, but alcohol seems to be the one thing that people can't shake, that, if you don't drink, that there's something wrong with you. And I think that's such a powerful message, just to try and put out there, that actually, when you look into things, alcohol is actually a lot more kind of negative for you than a lot of other things, but it seems to still be such an acceptable part of society.
yeah,
I think when you do take a deep dive, it is really enlightening. And some of the stats, and especially around, it's a group 1 carcinogen, which means that it's basically a very toxic substance for you. And still it seems to be something we do every day, and it's, such an acceptable thing. It's just, yeah, it's mind blowing.
yeah. It's I think Do you know Jake Humphrey? He's got like a podcast called High Performance. Do you know who that is? He used to
I
be like
don't. I could
a
pretend I
presenter on
do,
like
but
kids TV. No, yeah, it doesn't matter. But
I'll have a
anyway,
look into it though if you feel like it's worthy.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, but it's just interesting. I seen something that a podcast that he did, and he's been quite open about like he struggled a little bit with alcohol, and he's sober now, etc., etc. There's a stat that he said, and I'll be honest, I haven't fact checked it, so don't quote me on it, but he said, I think the World Health Organization, if they had the opportunity to reclassify alcohol, they would only suggest for us to drink one alcoholic beverage per year. That's what they would deem safe. And
Wow.
yeah, I know you're smiling, right? And like, that blows my mind. The fact that, like you said, there are so many other substances that, whether you agree with them or not, do so much less harm, but they are deemed like class A drugs or whatever it may be. And then, yeah, alcohol is almost, it would be like, the way I look at alcohol is, if we were to all vote tomorrow to say that we want alcohol to be banned, it would be like a crime against humanity. Like, there would be uproar.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
and that fascinates me as a society, how we've got to that point. I
I
don't know
saw
how that's really
something
happened.
like really powerful, and it kind of changed my mindset on again what alcohol actually is. Because if you think we use alcohol in cleaning products, right, to clean things,
Yeah.
that is the same alcohol that we're putting into our body. It's just, I don't know what the correct word is, but it's just assembled, let's say assembled differently. But ultimately, the alcohol
Yeah.
itself is the same thing. And I remember listening to that and thinking, gosh, that's horrific, because, something you're cleaning your toilet with, you're also actually putting into your body out of free will. And I just think, as I mentioned earlier, I can't, I also won't sit here and preach that everybody should be sober, because everybody is old and wise enough to make their own choices. And also I didn't stop because of the health benefits, but I think it has truly made this process of accepting that I'm happy being a sober person so much easier when you actually educate yourself. And actually, it's very alarming.
I think that's it, though.
Yeah.
That is the word, isn't it? Like, the education behind it.
100%. Yeah. But
just to on that, so for like my actual day job for a living, I drive like petrol tankers and gas tankers and all like big lorries and stuff. Anyway, don't need to get into that. But just on the alcohol thing, so the licenses that I have to be able to carry like pure chlorine and petrol and all these like super toxic chemical substances, I also need that same substance, those same licenses to carry liquid alcohol, like in big tankers.
Interesting. Wow.
It's the same classification, which I also find very fascinating. It kind of falls into that same category of, like petrol, diesel, chlorine, all these super
horrific things
substances
that are just not good and you shouldn't consume, but actually, alcohol seems to be the one that it seems to be fine.
As soon as it's in a can or a bottle, it's fine.
Yeah, it's
that's literally what happens. As soon as it's put into a can or a bottle, it's all good. Crazy to me. I'm very conscious of time, and I appreciate you just taking the time to have this chat with me. It's been really fun.
I've been really enjoying it. Thank you.
But I guess I just kind of, for anyone listening, and just a bit of a closing statement, I suppose. What would you say to someone that you feel that alcohol is costing them too much, I suppose, and it's not serving them as you've put, and maybe they're scared to quit? What would be sort of your key bit of advice for those people, other than read your book, obviously?
I mean, that would be great if they want to read my book, of course, and it's helpful. My advice would be, I think, sit and ask yourself a couple of questions. One of these questions would be, where do I see myself? Where do I want to go within the next couple of years? I think another one would be, why do I feel like I keep turning to alcohol? And I think it's, how am I actually feeling, and how does it make me feel? And I think you just need to, there's a couple of other self-reflective questions that I'd happily share with people, because it's so powerful, because I think it sounds like a really silly thing to do, but it's actually things you don't actually ask yourself very often. And I think sitting there, if you are struggling with alcohol, and asking yourself a couple of key questions as to why you feel like you've got to where you've got to is so powerful. And then just take it day by day. Honestly, I think we assume that, I can't drink ever again, and I think as soon as you add, and as soon as you tell yourself that you can't do something, you're already setting yourself up for failure. I think changing your
Yeah.
mindset to, I get to be alcohol free and all the amazing things that come with that is a far better approach than, oh, I'm so hard done by, I can't drink, why can't I drink with my friends? It's flipping the switch and actually taking this time to grow and develop and actually see it so much more positively, I think, and what you can do for yourself within this time rather than what alcohol is taking away from you, because you'll realize alcohol's not helping you grow by any means. It's taking a lot. And I think just sitting and having a bit of a one-to-one with yourself would be my first approach. I think you are usually in a very vulnerable place when you are removing alcohol. And so I think if you can confide in at least even one person, if you can, then I would say join support groups online, especially if you're a female. Obviously, I tend to follow a lot more female things because I am a female, and it's things that I enjoy to see. Called Sober Girl Society. It's an Instagram page. It's an amazing space for women, and also I think some men follow it as well. It's a very safe platform to share your thoughts and opinions, and they have weekly episodes and they cover different things, and it's a real, Millie Gooch has built such an amazing community for people to feel safe if they don't have that support system and be in a space where you don't feel like you're alone. And I think when you are in those initial stages of wanting to remove alcohol, you do feel really isolated. You're very different to what your friends and family are doing. And you need that support system, and that's a great place to find it if you don't have it within your inner circle. And I think, honestly, be curious and go and see this as a time to really reinvent yourself, discover new hobbies that you didn't even realize you would like, and just put yourself out there and embrace it and see it as, what can this teach me, more so than, it taking anything away, because it really isn't. It never is. You'll never look back. Well,
yeah, so good. Yeah. And look, I know you're very modest, but I've said to you so many times, like, I honestly really enjoyed your book. I thought it was really good.
Thank you so much.
I think
that's so kind.
Like, I really think that if anybody is thinking about sort of taking their first step towards removing alcohol, and as you put it, like, they're sober curious, like, definitely do it. Just
try it. It doesn't have to be forever. It can be for a couple of weeks, couple of months. You'll realize it's quite addictive.
It is. But thankfully it's addictive for the right reasons.
I was just about to say that, so thank
you. And look, genuinely, as I said, I know you're very modest, but for anybody that does want to buy your book, like, where is the best place for people to buy it?
Well, you can buy it on Amazon. So it is it's a self-published book. It's something I really wanted to do. I am proud of it purely because it's just a way to support people from my own approach. So you can buy it via Amazon. You can buy it soft cover, hard cover. You can buy it. You can Kindle. It's a quick read. It's nothing too big. But I think sometimes that's also a great starting place, is to just
100%.
get a bit of a glimmer into what being sober is about, and hopefully it relates to a lot of people and people find comfort in it. That was my initial goal from it.
Yeah, it's really good. I definitely think people will relate, and I think the thing that I loved about it the most, even for myself, like, I'm nearly a year in, it still made me self-reflect and ask myself questions as I was reading it.
That's nice to hear.
It's really good.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for being on. This has been amazing.
I loved it. Thank you for inviting me.
I wish you all the best with the book.
You too. And congrats on becoming a new dad. When
Thank
is
you
the
very
baby
much. 9 weeks, I think.
In the final stage.
Yeah, I hope that's right. I'm going to get in trouble if that's wrong.
He's going to shout at you for not knowing that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure 9 weeks, yeah.
Oh, well, I hope it all goes well if I don't speak to you. But no, thank you. This has been great.
No worries. Thank you.